It's time we compare the camera of the iPhone 7 with that of the iPhone 6s and see how much of an improvement do we get. You still get a 12 megapixel camera on the iPhone 7, and from the outside, it might seem that not much has changed with the camera, but that is actually not the case. You now get a much wider aperture of f1.8, which captures a lot more light compared to the f2.2 aperture of the iPhone 6s. What this means is that with the iPhone 7, you can get much better images in low lighting conditions than before. You also get a much wider color capture with this new sensor, which results in even better looking images. And the biggest change that the camera of the iPhone 7 has seen is the addition of optical image stabilization. This feature has been missing from the 4.7-inch iPhones up until now. All the ways to get to the camera app and the actual interface of the camera app is exactly similar on both these devices. If you are running any version of iOS 10 on these iPhones, to get to the camera, you can just raise the phone to wake it up and swipe to the left from anywhere on the lock screen. You can also just tap the camera icon on the home screen or 3D touch the same app to directly get to a specific camera mode. With all of this out of the way, let us take a look at the images and videos from both these iPhones. This first image from the iPhone 6s looks a lot warmer, whereas the one from the iPhone 7 is showing the accurate colors of the scene. Images from both these devices are filled with a lot of detail, but the ones from the iPhone 7 show a bit more dynamic range and slightly better colors. It is difficult to make it out at first, but comparing these images closely, there is a bit more richness to the images from the iPhone 7. Close-up shots from the iPhone 7 are slightly sharper, and the background is blurred out a bit more thanks to the f1.8 aperture. It might seem like the iPhone 7 has a better camera, but if you are looking at any of these images separately, they look just as good. Now things start to change a bit when we get indoors in artificial and lower lighting conditions. Both devices still capture a lot of detail, but the iPhone 7 also captures a lot more light, resulting in better and brighter looking images. There is not a huge difference, but it is just enough to make you reach for the newer iPhone when you want to click a picture. As we move to even lower lighting conditions, that is where the gap between both these cameras start to become wider. The images from the iPhone 6s are a lot darker, while the iPhone 7 does a nice enough job. Now the iPhone 7 is not the best camera if you are looking to take images in lower light. Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge does a much better job at that, as we saw in my camera comparison video of both these devices. But the iPhone 7 still does a better job than the iPhone 6s. I am not someone who takes a lot of selfies, but if that is important for you, the iPhone 7 now comes with a 7 megapixel front facing camera, which can also take 1080p Full HD video. Speaking of video, the optical image stabilization on the iPhone 7 works amazingly well. Just to see how well, I took these clips while shaking and vibrating the phone a bit, and you can clearly see that the iPhone 7 does a much better job at keeping the video stable. The cinematic stabilization on the iPhones have always been a lot better than any other smartphones, but the optical image stabilization takes things to the next level. So as we see from these images and videos, the camera on the iPhone 7 is definitely an improvement over the iPhone 6s. Wider f1.8 aperture and optical image stabilization are two of the biggest selling points for me. If you want the best camera on your iPhone, then definitely go with the iPhone 7. But if you want to save some money and still want a pretty good camera on your smartphone, you can go with the iPhone 6s, as it still has a better camera than many of the smartphones in the market right now. That is it for this video, guys. I have compared the camera of both these devices with a lot of other smartphones, so make sure you guys check those videos out.